Okay, what we do here is just get our aroma hots ready by our sock of choice and empty the container right into the sock, and then we'll tie it off. And at the appropriate time we will add it 12 minutes before we expect to put it in the ale pail. The 12 minutes is to ensure that we get the temperature up to 190 degrees for 10 minutes. And that should guarantee that we have prevented any unwanted organisms to be in our wort. And these hops will be releasing in a timed manner over the time before we find it ready to bottle, and we'll explain that part in a few minutes. Just let it get to a boil. You can see our mini Vesuvius right there. That means that you're dissolving all the solutes right now. And this is about the time we add our backstrap molasses to kind of cheat a little bit on the lack of flavor that will be experienced with the malt syrup. And use a little less than a cup. We use the lid to keep the heat from, because the steam evaporating will cool off your wort, and we'll try to keep it simmering at a just low boil to dissolve as much as we can. And as soon as we've completed 40 minutes or so, we will put in our prepared aroma hops. We have approximately 1 ounce of aroma hops ready to go into the wort, and what we're doing is pushing out all of the air, and once that is done, we will count down 12 minutes so that it's totally pasteurized, and we've slowed the simmer down once we took the top off. We'll cut the temperature back a little bit from the stove because we're using electric instead of a gas quick instant control. And from this point we'll give it that 12 minutes to make sure it's all sterile and nothing funny grows in it. And there we are. Okay, this is the stage where we prepare to bring it up to volume and cool it off while extracting all the extractables. So we start with just a little bit of ice at the bottom, so that as the hot water comes in there, we don't run into too fast an expansion and stuff of our plastic. What we're going to do, put a little bit of water to start. We try to get our aroma hops bag into here. And what we're doing is we're going to try to get as much of the leaves and stuff hanging into it into this net and get it cleaned off so we can drop it right directly into the bucket, and it'll stay in the bucket until we drain it when we bottle it. trying to keep our hops inside. You can see I might have to change the kind of clothespin I'm using to keep this there. What I'm trying to do is get as few leaves into the thing and catch them all in here. I have sometimes been able to do this way, but not always. I hope that we will spare you some of this time that will be edited out. This should be adequate because what is going to stay on here will be in the very dregs at the bottom below our tap. Also, we might want to warn you in advance that be sure it's turned the right way, because when you first pour it in there, it can come out pretty fast and pretty hot. Now, we generally start at the beginning using our measuring cup to pour through here. And we pour more cold water on top. We keep pouring through until we're convinced we have gotten all of the soluble materials out. I think that'll do it for the moment. Then pouring, the color changes as we go down and through. Once the color gets relatively clear, we know that we're not going to get meaningful solutes out of there. And so we will just discard this amount, and this will be later sheet composted under some large rocks. Once we have it down to a controllable size, we try to run till we've practically filled this strainer. We'll add a few more ice cubes. If you have really cold ice cubes, remember, the 5-second rule does not apply. So if you want to save a little bit of energy, rinse them. Once we got to that stage where there's very little color coming out, we often just press to make we get the last bit of that bittering hops juice in there. But it's pretty much absorbed by the oatmeal that's holding those hops in suspension. As you notice, as we get here to the last little bit, we are rinsing out all of our equipment, making sure we haven't lost a gram of sugars at all. And we have our equipment almost ready for the next batch whenever that comes, weeks from now or tomorrow. And it will be dried, and if for some reason you didn't dry it fast enough and something looks like it's growing in there, don't clean it out with detergent, you use bleach. Okay, you can see we have a little over a gallon worth of spent hops and oatmeal, and we're testing. I already washed my hands. We're testing to see that this is not much warmer than my hand, and we're going to add our yeast from previous hops, or from previous oatmeal stout, so that we'll continue this. We can do this at least 3 times, up to 5. There is a tendency for the yeast to shift. If it shifts in the right direction, you can use it more times. But if it starts to get a little off from what you were accustomed to and you don't like the direction it's going, that's the last time you use it. But that is how and I'm going to use both bottles just to give it a nice fast start. And then you'll notice that we use these flip tops. That's how we drain them, right from there. The little bit of residue this will be at the very bottom. This stays on top all the time, adding the flavonoids that make it the really double hopped stout that we're trying to make. And we're finished.